Have you ever wondered why some street photos feel like fine art masterpieces, while others look like blurry vacation snaps from one of them old wind-up cameras? Hey everyone, I'm Tavis Leaf Glover, and I've been studying composition techniques for over a decade now, and I'm here to share with you what I've learned.
You're working with a professional here!
Today we're revealing the composition techniques of 20 pro street photographers. We're counting their techniques, and we're debating which style stands the test of time. Now I've got my pick, but I want to know what you think in the comments below. So let's dive deep into their photos and crown the true champion. First, let's define the styles with a nod to painting parallels. As you know, I believe the best photographers learn from master painters, and this is like comparing Renaissance masters to abstract expressionists. They're both artists, but their approaches are completely different. That's where our tight, loose, and subject-based styles come into play. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but let's break them down one by one. So the tight compositions, they pack in quite a few techniques to make the subject pop. Think polished and planned, like Leonardo da Vinci's Renaissance precision in the Mona Lisa, or Peter Paul Rubens' mastery shown in The Four Continents. Loose compositions use a few tricks, like balancing subject and design, and that's similar to Picasso's vibe in Les Demoiselles d'Avignon or Guernica. And with subject-based compositions, it's all about the moment, with composition as an afterthought, kind of like Jackson Pollock's abstract expressionism in Autumn Rhythm, or like the campiness we see in Freddy Krueger movies. Let's start with the tight compositions from professional street photographers. You don't need to know a thing about design techniques to feel that there's something special happening in these next images. Your eyes just know. Now what we're going to cover is kind of in depth, but I'm going to walk you through each technique at least once so nothing feels mysterious. Then as we move through the rest of the images, we'll start spotting things we may have missed before. Not because they weren't there, but because now we know how to see them. Joseph Koudelka uses several notable design techniques in this excellent photo. He's got nice figure-to-ground relationship, which is the way the foreground fits into the background. Try this. Draw an imaginary line around the subject and you'll see if there's enough contrast to create visual clarity. He's also got all of these shapes separated, which is basically like figure-to-ground relationship on crack. The aspective view of the man and the horse allow us to identify them easily, and it's all achieved by spreading the limbs or capturing a twist in the form. Koudelka is also capturing a gesture and the decisive moment in this man right here. He's waiting for the perfect time to click the shutter button, right when the ball is above the horizon line, giving it perfect figure-to-ground relationship. If it were a little bit lower, it'd be lost in the grass. Koudelka also has this repeating diagonal in two figures and the horse, adding a hidden rhythm in the scene. The balance from top to bottom and left to right is great because he's using the vertical center line there as a fulcrum, and he's using a counterpart to keep the visual weight somewhat even on both sides. See, if this horse wasn't here, we'd have a left-heavy composition. The horse also seems to be the greatest area of contrast. Why? Well, it's because of the high contrast and the aspect of view grabbing our attention with a lot of strength. Squint your eyes and you'll see how these techniques pull our attention to the horse like a magnet. What's most impressive is the amount of edge-to-edge relationships, or what we call coincidences. Sure, he could have adjusted the subjects or himself to align certain objects here and there, but this high level of movement and unity is typically only seen in master paintings. This next one by Harry Greiart nails a lot of the same techniques like figure-to-ground relationship and coincidences, but it's also introducing ambiguity, which is caused by the faces of these figures being blacked out. It creates a sense of mystery where the viewer can create their own story. The patterns of the uniform, the blacked out faces, and the clouds all create this sense of surrealism. You see this window of depth being created by the shape at the top here where the clouds are. The lighting forms a dominant diagonal which helps the visual impact, and it's also creating a 90-degree angle which adds a sense of strength to the composition. Now if we edit this out just for fun, the composition is noticeably weaker. On top of all of those techniques, Harry's also capturing the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue in a hierarchy. If he also had green in the scene, he'd be following in the same footsteps of many master painters, including Vincent van Gogh. If you haven't already, definitely go to the site and check this free article out. It's about color theory and you'll learn a lot from it. Steve McCurry packs in quite a few of the same techniques, like an aspect of view of the man, the counterpart, and separated shapes, but he's also capturing movement in the ocean. He's got aerial perspective in the background for depth. See this ocean mist right here? It's similar to a forest on a foggy day. Natural depth created by particles in the air. He's also capturing a size hierarchy within the men. And yes, he's known for stitching together images, so this could be a total of about 5 images, one for each point of interest. In fact, this guy on the right is on the same focal plane as this man on the left, but when compared, he's a lot larger. Who knows, maybe he is a foot taller than this other guy, or Steve made another Photoshop blunder. Either way, the image still works. This Bruno Barbie photo looks like a shot you might take on a family vacation, but it has a little more sophistication thanks to the shape organization. There's also something clever hiding inside this photo which elevates it to another level. Can you see it? Look close. It's the juxtaposition of the pregnant woman on the right and the sign on the left showing the child inside. The way Bruno juxtaposed this tells a deeper story of a pregnant woman and a child wanting to come out. This Jonas Bendixen photo has all the hallmarks of the other photos. It's ambiguous, there's an aspect of view in the man, there's a counterpart, but one thing that shines is the negative space. He's decided to go wide and capture more negative space, which creates a quieter image about isolation and perhaps loneliness. If we crop in on the image, we get something that's more powerful, changing the story up. Pro photographers or artists know exactly how negative space can impact the story of an image. We've got a new technique emerging in this David Allen Harvey photo, and we call it echoing shapes. This is where we have two or more unrelated objects sharing a similar shape. It adds a hidden rhythm, and Odd Nerdrum uses this all the time in his masterful oil paintings. David also captured separating shapes, a dominant diagonal, and primary colors. Alex Webb captures the same primary colors in this one. Now take a couple seconds and look. Can you identify the new technique? Can you identify any known techniques? Well, we've got nice balance with a counterpart. He's got an aspect of view in this man in the background. And the new technique is what we call frame within a frame. Alex has used the decisive moment to capture this background figure inside the frame of the popcorn cart. These type of techniques show control and cleverness, making them more interesting to the viewer. And Gary Winogrand's got a great frame within a frame photo. The notable techniques captured in this Martin Frank photo are the gestures, decisive moment, aspect of view in the figures, the balance, and the dominant diagonals. Can you guess the most notable technique used by Elliot Erwitt in this obviously staged yet visually intriguing photo? It's the illusion he's creating by coinciding or aligning the boy's eye with the cracks in the window. It's a really striking image. And speaking of coincidences, that's the main technique Maciej Dekowitz uses in this one. Henri Cartier-Bresson is known to be the godfather of street photography.
That I cannot do.
And we can see why in this well-composed black and white image. His precision here screams timeless, like Renaissance art that never fades. What's really cool is if we flip this image, we'll see that we get way more movement. Do you feel the extra movement?
Can you feel that, buddy? Huh? Huh? Huh?
This is what I call magnetic momentum, and it's a combination of a few things. The way we read from left to right, the way the contrasting design grabs our attention, and its close proximity to the sinister diagonal here. It's all a perfect recipe for movement. Master painters always consider the flip view before rendering a drawing or laying down paint to canvas. Go through some of your own images when you get a sec and try flipping them, but look for extra movement. Sometimes it can improve the image. These type photos that we just covered are pretty remarkable with their deliberate designs, and they'll definitely stand the test of time. So how do we get the skill to create tight compositions? By sharpening our eyes in the same way they did. Study the techniques, break down photos, then use those lessons in new work. That's how you build mastery in almost everything, and that's what I consider muscle memory, and it's all informed by quality knowledge. It's a cycle: study, shoot, reflect, and repeat. Now, loose compositions, those tend to ease up on the composition scaffolding that we're used to seeing in the previous images. It's similar to Picasso's playful forms found in his groundbreaking painting, the Demoiselle d'Avignon, that we mentioned earlier. Yes, this very painting is what changed the future of his artistic journey. Now, this shot by Christopher Anderson is great, but the composition isn't as tight. He's captured the primary colors, and the aspect of view combined with the nice figure-to-ground relationship on the woman elevates it quite a bit, but you'll notice that there's a lot of negative space, and that takes away from the energy created by this beautiful burst of light. The story is slightly confusing. Now, if we crop off this section of the image, it tells the same story, so why should we include it? And that's a great question to ask yourself when you're cropping images. If you crop it off and it's not missed, then why keep it around? Now, if we crop even tighter, say like a square crop like this, we get something that's more powerful and it matches the energy within the scene. We can even flip this like we did before, and we can see that it gains more movement. Now that's a tight composition, and that would make a great CD cover. This black and white shot by Trent Park is pretty surreal. It's almost like a sweaty fever dream. The aerial perspective created by the rain is what gives the mood to the image. Without it, the image would fail to hold the interest of viewers. If you can imagine it without the rain, there's not much else going on. If you incorporated more techniques like separated shapes, aspect of view, or controlling the contrast a little bit better, it'd be sitting with the other tight photos we've seen so far. It's pretty obvious that he's used post-processing to push the image further, but that can only do so much, and it shouldn't be used as a crutch. Start with a great image first, then sprinkle in some Photoshop to complete your visualization. This one by Konstantin Manos is organized pretty well. He's got 3 different groups separated to help with visual clarity. Even the guy on the beach is clearly separated from the foreground, adding some nice depth there. It's obvious that these 3 dancing ladies are the main focal point, and the gaze of every single man helps emphasize this. The only thing that keeps it from being a tight composition is what? Take a sec to look at it. It's the one thing that most artists have a hard time controlling, the contrast. You might be thinking, well, this is a street photo, there's only so much you can do. Yes, that's definitely true, but we can't learn anything if we don't dig deeper past the obvious excuses. So, how can we control the contrast in this one? If this was your photo and you wanted to make it the best you could possibly make it, what could we do? Now, there's a lot you can do in Photoshop, but that all depends on your personal preferences when presenting your street photos. If you label yourself like Steve McCurry does, as a visual storyteller, then the sky's the limit.
Are you against photoshopping on your work? Is that something that you...
Well, yeah, I think that, you shouldn't add or subtract things. I think that Photoshop is a tool to color correct and to do various sharpening and whatnot is obviously, everybody does that. I think as far as adding or subtracting things, that's not something that needs to be done or should be done.
A ton of his photos are manipulated and cleaned up in Photoshop. For this one, we just have to eliminate anything that's distracting from the main subject. Then we can add a slight vignette and control the contrast to get more visual clarity. With the edited version, we're tightening things up, and it definitely shows. These are all solid photos that we just saw, but by cleaning things up or adding more techniques, we get that timeless punch. Finally, we have subject-based compositions, which are usually one note, much like Pollock's abstract drips and splatters. They capture the vibe, but they risk fading without composition. Now we can blaze through these because there's not much to look at. This photo by Jack Simon is one note. It's a little chuckle, not much else. We've got an old lady with a camera and a cookie in her mouth. It's quirky, it's a unique moment in time, but the composition is lackluster. There's bad figure-to-ground relationship, it's centered, which is fine, but with a distraction people on the left side, it makes it a left-heavy composition. And I think you can agree that these next photos by Vivian Maier, William Eggleston, and Martin Parr are just filler photos, like the silverware shots from a wedding. They don't stand strong by themselves. Now if you go to the site, definitely check out this article about projects, because you can make one-note images like this a lot stronger by presenting them in a group of similar photos. Now here we see Matt Stewart captures a gesture, Justin Vogel snaps a guy sleeping next to a vacuum, Joel Merowitz gets a guy falling, Jeff Mermelstein snaps some money in an old lady's mouth, Daniel Arnold gets a reflection, so does Richard Calvar, Bruce Gilden stills a startled reaction, Gary Winogrand captures a laugh. It's kind of like you're looking at TikTok videos compared to a full-length movie like Apocalypse Now. There's a little dopamine hit, but no depth. These loose images can shine as cultural snapshots, but here's my take. Tight styles like Henry Cartier-Bresson's outlast subject-based images like Winogrand's.
I hate the term. I think it's a stupid term, street photography. I don't think it makes any, it tells you anything about a photographer or work.
Bresson's compositions feel like Renaissance masterpieces, structured and eternal.
It's a strict frame of reference with all the variations inside the frame, with liberties of
while Winogrand's snapshots echo abstract expressionism's chaos. Great for the moment, but less timeless.
They're just dumb.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love all these styles, but there's definitely one style that is way more timeless. So what do you think? Does raw energy win, or is design the key? What about a hybrid of energy and structure? What's your style, and who's your favorite from today? Whatever your taste, if you practice these techniques, you'll build your muscle memory and watch your photos transform. Be sure to like and subscribe for more photography secrets, and stay in touch.